Pet Milk, the first evaporated milk, presents the Mary Lee Taylor program. Welcome to another Double Rich program featuring the story of the week about that happy American family, Jim, Sally, and Betsy Carter, and the recipe of the week from Mary Lee Taylor's friendly Pet Milk Kitchen. If you haven't sent for a copy of the newest Pet Milk recipe book called Dependable Recipes, be sure to write for it today. 16 pages of easy, dependable recipes for the kind of food that your family and friends are sure to say nice things about. The kind of food you take pride in serving. Remember, to get this grand book, just print your name and address and the words Dependable Recipes on a postcard and send the card to Mary Lee Taylor, care of this station, or to Pet Milk, St. Louis, Zone 1, Missouri. And now it's Mary Lee on NBC. And here she is, your own good friend, Mary Lee Taylor.
Thank you, Del King, and a warm welcome to every one of you. As you know, Sally Carter, the young wife in our story, wants everyone else to be just as happy as she is. For example, there's a new neighbor in the building, and according to Sally...
Jim, darling, if we could just make a hero out of Mr. Hardy. If we could just think of something...
Sally, please. Mrs. Hardy rules the roost. Mr. Hardy is an unhappy, hen-pecked husband. But it's definitely none of your business.
But Sally made it her business, as you'll find out in just a minute when we bring you today's story called The Hero. And right after the story, I'm going to give you the recipe for pineapple whip, a perfect warm weather dessert, because most of the work is done by your refrigerator.
Yes, in fact, almost the only thing you have to do is whip the pet milk, and that's as easy as 1, 2, 3. You know, it's pretty wonderful when an all-purpose milk is so thick and rich you can actually whip it. And that's pet milk. Milk that comes from the country's finest dairy farms and then is concentrated to double richness. Yes, you get double rich whole milk when you get pet milk.
We'll come back to the pet milk recipe of the week for pineapple whip a little later. But right now, it's time to join Jim and Sally Carter in Capital City. Sally had been hearing from the neighbors about the disagreeable people who recently moved into the second-floor front apartment, but she'd been too busy to call, so she hadn't met them until one morning, strangely enough, at breakfast time.
I'm going to have to grab a quick bite this morning, Sally. Want to get in a little early.
All right, darling. Your coffee's poured.
Well, let's see. My briefcase, my pen. Oh, wouldn't you know. I'll get it. Good morning.
Good morning, young man.
Good morning.
Is it somebody for me, dear? Oh, it's Mr. and Mrs. Hardy, isn't it?
It is.
They have the upstairs front apartment, Jim, the one we used to have. I've been meaning to come up and call Mrs. Hardy, but with the baby and everything... Oh, won't you come in?
No, thank you. And we didn't come at this hour of the morning to make a social call, I assure you, young woman. We came to make a complaint. Elmer?
A complaint? Oh, have you heard the baby crying? We thought...
It isn't the baby. We don't hear her. It's the cat.
Cinder? Oh, surely you don't hear Cinder.
Great Caesar. Well, excuse me, please. I have to eat my breakfast.
We don't hear it. But Mrs. Hardy, we think cats in the house are unsanitary. You'll have to get rid of it.
But Cinder's such a little kitten, and I keep her right in the apartment.
It's unsanitary. And we won't pay our rent until it's removed. Not that the cat's the only thing by any means.
My goodness, what else have we done?
Many brave souls are asleep in the sea.
That, for instance.
Oh, well, that's just Mr. Gulliver. He always sings in the shower, but that's the only time. Nobody minds.
You're quite mistaken. We mind. And there's that amateur radio man across the hall from us.
Oh, Andy Rarick. Well, he's very clever with radio. Why,
He interferes with my radio reception. I can never get the University Woman's Forum. We won't tolerate it. Will we, Elmer?
No, dear.
And that's the worst. I intend to see that That dreadful pounding has stopped immediately.
Oh, Mrs. Hardy, I admit it's pretty bad, but that's Bud Hackett, our landlady's son. I've been giving him music lessons, and he's trying so hard to get on the amateur program at the radio station. And this is the only piano he can practice on.
It's insufferable.
It means so much to Spud. None of us exactly enjoy Spud's practicing, but he has so few advantages. We're willing to put up with the noise for his sake.
It's out of the question. The landlady of all people ought to know better.
Excuse me, folks. I've got to rush.
Bye, dear.
See you tonight, Sal. Have fun.
Yes, darling, I will.
Well, I hope I shan't have to complain again to the landlady about that animal. But I've told Mrs. Hackett I won't pay my rent until it's removed. Good day.
Yes, good day, Mrs. Carter. It's been nice meeting you.
Elmer?
Right with you, dear. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Sally kept Cinder well out of sight all day and tried to keep the Hardys out of mind until that evening after dinner when Jim stopped reading the paper long enough to ask.
Incidentally, did that old battle axe that was here this morning keep on with her list of complaints?
Did she? And not incidentally. Continuously, from what everybody tells me. Seems that nobody suits her.
Oh, so who cares? Let her move out.
Oh, I wish she would. But she has no such intention. Quarreling with everybody and holding out on her rent just as the law allows. It's a shame.
Oh, why doesn't Mrs. Hackett toss her out on her ear?
I don't think she can. Isn't there a law? Anyway, poor Mrs. Hackett's been having such a bad time with her arthritis, she just can't get the place ready for new tenants. And I'm afraid she's going to make Spud give up his music lessons. Just because of Mrs. Hardy.
Fiddlesticks. But the husband doesn't seem like such a bad egg. I think he's just a poor little hand-packed guy.
Yes, he's quite nice. And I think he'd like to be friendly. But what chance does he have?
None, with that steamroller for a wife.
If he'd just assert himself.
Are you kidding? That little worm?
Worms do turn. That's what I've always heard anyway. You know, Jim, maybe we could...
Now, Sally, none of that. You've got a baby to take care of, and we're going to move out of the building as soon as we can find a house anyway. Well, it'll be easy to keep Cinder under cover, so why don't we do just that and let the others look out for themselves?
Oh, I would, darling, if it weren't for Spuds and his piano lessons. He's so proud of himself.
But there isn't anything we can do.
Maybe there is. Now, if Mr. Hardy thought he was a strong character, and Mrs. Hardy thought he was a strong character, why, maybe he'd be a strong character.
What?
Anyway, it won't hurt to try. I'm going to get the gang together here tonight.
So Sally did get the other tenants in the rooming house together, and they discussed ways and means of reversing the leadership in the case of the Hardys. A week or so later, Sally and Jim were sitting on the front steps after dinner.
Look, Jim, here come the Hardys. Remember, it's our chance to help the cause along. We've done the least of anybody around here to build Mr. Hardy up.
Oh, it's an awful hot night for practicing psychology.
Quick, think up something to ask Mr. Hardy. Something that sounds vital. Oh, hello, folks.
Good evening.
How do you do?
I've been waiting to see you, Mr. Hardy. I want to ask your advice about some government figures I have in the apartment.
My advice? Oh, well, I'll be glad to help you, young fellow, if I can.
Could you stop in with me a few minutes?
Certainly. Excuse us, ladies.
Of course. Oh, well, call me if Betsy wakes up, Jim.
Sure, I will. Mr. Hardy, I want to see if you think these figures will apply to my situation.
Jim thinks Mr. Hardy has such a good grasp of the financial situation.
Everybody seems to want Elmer's advice lately. Like that red-headed Miss Nichols. She makes eyes at Elmer every time she meets him in the hall.
Oh, pay no attention to Nicky. She doesn't mean anything by it. She makes eyes at every attractive man she sees.
And those Rariks. He's always asking Elmer for advice about his radio. He thinks Elmer has engineering ability. I don't know. Elmer seems changed lately.
Really? Oh, we all admire Mr. Hardy very much.
You do?
Back in the apartment, after the Hardys had left, Sally and Jim gleefully compare notes.
My golly, Sally, it's working. No, I didn't think it would, but that fellow has blossomed out. He gave me some positive advice. Firm, authoritative, and incidentally doggone good.
Well, that's wonderful. It shows what a build-up can do for a man. Oh, the neighbors have all been doing their part, too, especially Nicky.
Uh-huh. So she's the one who put the gleam in his eye.
Oh, Jim. Oh, even Mrs. Hardy shows signs of change. She's not nearly as dictatorial as she was. And she didn't register a complaint all evening, except about Spud's piano practicing. She won't give up on that.
I wish something really big would happen to old Hardy. Something to make him out a hero, to himself and to his wife, so he'd really take control. You know, if he'd rescue somebody from a burning building or scare off a hold-up man.
That's it. Jim, you're wonderful. That's exactly it.
I don't get it. Oh, you mean...
Well, why not? It wouldn't be hard to stage a burglar act.
Yeah, I've always thought I'd make a good desperado.
But it'll have to be awfully good. We'd feel pretty silly if we got caught.
Say, I'll be good. The only thing, it's likely to start me on a career of crime.
Oh, really, Jim, it'd be fun, just like Halloween. Well, let's make plans. Tomorrow night. Mr. Hardy! Oh, Mr. Hardy!
Oh, Mrs. Carter. Anything wrong?
Oh, Mr. Hardy, I'm frightened, so I came to you. I think there's a burglar in the house. Jim isn't home, and I thought I could hear somebody breaking in through a cellar window right under my bedroom. I wonder...
Oh, it's probably just your imagination.
Maybe, but I'd feel a lot better if some big, strong man would take a look.
Well, of course, I'd be glad to.
Elmer, there's no sense in your going down there. Suppose it is a prowler. What could you do?
Why, scare the prowler away, of course.
Of course? Why, yes, of course. There's probably nobody down there anyway.
Come on, here's my flashlight.
The battery's not very strong.
I know. I mean, I am afraid it isn't.
You'd better stay here, Emmeline.
Certainly not. I'm going to see what goes on.
Oh, goodness. You're brave, Mr. Hardy.
Oh, nonsense. Probably nobody there. And if there is, maybe he'll run when he hears us coming.
Oh, the door to the cellar is right down this hall. Here. Listen.
Yes, I hear him. I'll open the door.
There is somebody down there. Elmer, don't you go another step. I won't have you risk your life. I'm going to call the police.
Oh, dear, I never thought of that. I mean, do you think you'd better?
I should say so. Listen to that. Elmer, you stay out of that cellar.
I'm going down and see. Stand back, Mrs. Carter.
Here, take this brass candlestick. It's heavy. It'll make a good weapon. Take this brass candlestick. It's heavy. It'll make a good weapon. I'm glad Mrs. Hardy is calling the police.
Who's there? I said, who are you? What are you doing down there?
I see the man over in that corner. He's enormous, and he has a gun. Elmer, come back.
You! What are you doing in this cellar?
He's making for the door. He fell. He's up again. Don't chase him, Elmer. He's a monster, and he has a gun.
We'll return to our story in less than a minute. But right now, a quick reminder that Mary Lee Taylor has a wonderful big 64-page book she'd like to send you. It's the popular book called Your Baby, and it's packed with the kind of information your own doctor would want you to have about the care and training of a baby and how to see to it that your baby grows up strong and sturdy with the added security that glowing health can bring. To get a gift copy of this valuable book, just ask Mary Lee Taylor for the baby book, addressing your request to her, care of the station to which you are listening. And now, back to our story.
Mrs. Hardy has fainted, Mr. Hardy. Come back. Help me. Never mind the burglar. He's gone now anyway. Oh, dear. Well, let's see. I'll lower her head.
I couldn't catch him, but I ran him off all right. Probably the police will get him in the alley.
Oh, do you think so?
Why, Emmeline, she didn't, you don't mean she...
Uh-huh. She fainted. She was scared to death.
Well, what do you know about that?
Get me some cold water, quick.
Oh, I'm all right. Elmer? Where's Elmer?
Right here, Emmeline. I ran the fellow off. Sorry you were frightened, but you should have known I'd protect you.
Oh, Elmer.
Say, what goes on here?
We had a burglar. He was trying to get in through the cellar, but Mr. Hardy chased him off. The police are looking for him in the alley.
Don't I know it? I mean, is that so?
He was a great, big, muscular fella. Must have been 6'4".
Well, you don't say. Well.
But he ran like anything when Mr. Hardy chased him.
No wonder if Mr. Hardy went at him with that candlestick, it'd fracture any skull. Did you give him that candlestick, darling?
Of course, dear. I thought it'd be a good weapon. Why, you're limping, dear.
I tripped on the front step.
Do you think you can get back to our apartment now, Emmeline?
If you'll help me, Elmer. That man was a perfect monster. I certainly hope the police will catch him.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah.
You should have seen Elmer, Mr. Carter. He's a real hero.
I wouldn't say that. I just did what any red-blooded man would have done under the circumstances.
You are a hero, Mr. Hardy. Why, we might have all been robbed or murdered even. Why...
There's that little beast again. If I've told the landlady once, I've told her 100 times.
Emmeline?
Yes, Elmer.
I enjoy hearing him try to play it. Reminds me of when I was learning to play. You know, I believe I could help him. Of course I could. That's a very good idea. Isn't it, Emmeline?
Why, yes, if you say so, Elmer.
Next week, we'll be bringing you another chapter in the life of Jim and Sally Carter. But right now, let's face the fact that stories come and stories go, but there's one thing that goes on forever, and that's your job of planning 3 meals a day. And if you'd like a little help, believe me, one person who can really help you is Mary Lee Taylor. And here she is, busy as always in the Pet Milk kitchen.
But not too busy to remind all of you that the newest Pet Milk recipe book is one that surely will come in handy these summer days. Because in it, you'll find recipes that require just a little cooking and some that require no cooking at all.
And the way to get this helpful new 16-page book is to write just 2 words, Dependable Recipes, together with your name and address on a postcard. Then send the card to Mary Lee Taylor, care of this station, or to Pet Milk, St. Louis, Zone 1, Missouri. Another way to get some of Mary Lee Taylor's favorite Pet Milk recipes is to look around in your favorite grocery store for the Pet Milk display and help yourself to one of the handy take-home recipe folders featured with that display.
And you're going to get the recipe for one of my favorite desserts in just a minute.
But first we do a little meal planning, don't we, to sort of lead up to that extra special dessert?
Yes. And today's meal shows 4 ways that double-rich pet milk can be used to save money. And it's the sort of food that takes very little last-minute fixing, so you can enjoy it just as much as the rest of the family. First, we'll have that favorite American combination, big, juicy frankfurters and potato salad.
Mary Lee, you're reading my mind.
Well, let's see if I can do it again. How about some dill pickles with the meal?
I can taste them now.
And rye bread or frankfurter buns.
I'll take rye bread, please.
And to top it all off, a dessert dish piled high with our delicious chilled pineapple whip.
And iced coffee or iced tea.
And you can fix that entire meal, enough for 4 people, including pet milk and sugar for the coffee, or only about $1.36.
She's not only a mind reader, she's a magician.
Well, it's easy to work magic in meals when you use pet milk. As I said, in that one meal, I used pet milk 4 ways to save money. First, I mixed bottled mayonnaise with pet milk to thin it to just the right consistency for the potato salad.
And the butter on the rye bread or rolls is probably pet butter spread. And that means making almost a whole pound of butter out of a half a pound.
Right. And the recipe is in the book we're offering today. Then, in the pineapple whip, I used whipped pet milk instead of whipped cream.
And pet milk for the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in that one delicious meal, you and your family are getting lots of the good, nourishing milk substances that help to keep you feeling on top of the world.
And now, before I get into the recipe for pineapple whip, suppose, Del, that you give the 1, 2, 3 about whipping pet milk.
Oh, sure. 1, have the pet milk ice cold. 2, have your beater ice cold. And 3, have the bowl in which you whip the milk ice cold.
And if you use an electric beater, turn it to high speed. If you use a rotary hand beater, turn it just as fast as you can. And the best way to chill the milk, if you have an automatic refrigerator, is to put it in one of the ice trays until ice crystals begin to form around the edge. If you haven't an automatic refrigerator, just put the can of pet milk right on the ice. Or measure the milk into your bowl first and put the bowl right on the ice.
And now I'm all set, if you are, for the recipe of the week for pineapple whip. Now, what comes first, Mary Lee?
Mix 2/3 cup canned, crushed pineapple, drained.
Mix 2/3 cup canned, crushed pineapple, drained. Yep.
16 marshmallows cut in small pieces.
16 marshmallows cut in small pieces. Sounds awful good. What else?
1/8 teaspoon of salt.
1/8 teaspoon salt. Okay.
And 4 teaspoons lemon juice.
4 teaspoons lemon juice. Okay, and when that's mixed, then what?
Chill 1 hour, stirring now and then.
Chill 1 hour, stirring now and then. Oh, say, this is plenty easy.
It certainly is. Next, whip until stiff. 1/3 cup ice-cold pet milk.
Whip until stiff. 1/3 cup ice-cold pet milk. And don't forget, this is one all-purpose milk you can really whip.
Then fold whipped milk into chilled fruit mixture.
Fold into chilled fruit mixture. All right, and then?
Pile into 4 dessert dishes and keep chilled until serving time.
Pile into 4 dessert dishes and keep chilled until serving time. Better keep quiet about it, too, or you'll have someone piling into that dessert before serving time.
That's just about the truth, too. Every time I make it, some of it disappears mysteriously before mealtime.
How long before mealtime do you make this kind of dessert, Mary Lee?
Well, it can be made as long as an hour or even 2 hours before mealtime, because it will keep perfectly in the refrigerator for from 1 to 2 hours. However, I usually wait until just before mealtime to make it, because the pet milk can be whipped in just 2 minutes, and it takes only 1 more minute to fold the whipped milk into the fruit mixture.
But the fruit mixture gets chilled for an hour, huh?
At least 1 hour. But it can be chilled much longer than that, even as long as overnight if that's more convenient. So, you see, you can get that one part of the preparation finished and out of the way, then just whip the milk and fold the whipped milk into the ice-cold fruit mixture at mealtime.
Any other tips to add to that recipe, Mary Lee?
Yes. First, about the fruit. Finely cut, cooked, or canned apricots, ripe bananas, or canned fruit cocktail can be used in place of the crushed pineapple. And for the 16 marshmallows, you can buy just 1/4 pound.
And for the milk that gets whipped to make this delicious pineapple whip, ask your grocer for pet milk, the all-purpose milk that's so thick and rich you can whip it. You'll save money when you use whipped pet milk in this and other whipped desserts. Because pet milk costs a lot less than whipping cream, and 1/3 cup of pet milk gives you a full cup of whipped milk, while 1/3 cup of whipping cream would only give you 2/3 cup after it's whipped.
And don't forget that pet milk, because it's real milk, gives you more of the nourishing whole milk substances than you get from cream. And I know how much that means to any woman who has a family to think about, because it's really up to the wife and mother to keep the family healthy.
And that brings me right back to the grand 16-page pet milk book called Dependable Recipes, because with these recipes, you can make a lot of your family's favorite dishes and make them extra nourishing because of the pet milk that's in them. So send for your copy today. Just address your request to Mary Lee Taylor, care of this station, or to Pet Milk, St. Louis, Zone 1, Missouri. The name of the book again is Dependable Recipes.
One other thing I do want to remind you of when you make that pineapple whip, and that is to fold the whipped milk into the pineapple mixture and not the other way around. The reason, of course, being that otherwise you would force out some of the air you've whipped into the milk, and your dessert wouldn't be as light, and you wouldn't have as much of it.
And now I know you want to hear today's recipe for happiness, but first a reminder to tune in tonight for the songs of Vic Damone, heard over most of these same NBC stations, with Kay Arman, the Serenaders, and the Pet Milk Orchestra. Yes, it's Vic Damone starring on the big nighttime Pet Milk musical show, so don't miss it. And don't miss next Saturday morning's double feature program with another Jim and Sally Carter story and another recipe for the perfect answer to Sunday dinner. And now, today's recipe for happiness.
There is no failure except in no longer trying. There is no defeat save from within. And now, until next Saturday, this is Mary Lee Taylor saying goodbye and happy homemaking.
Goodbye, Mary Lee Taylor, and good luck and good health to all of you from Pet Milk, the all-purpose milk that's so thick and rich, folks say it belongs in the cream pitcher. Today's story was written by Jane Spencer, directed by Al Chance. Del King speaking.
Bill Harrington debuts on your hit parade tonight on NBC.